Hey there YouTube, this is sjm4306. I know I did this repair video semi-recently on this, I believe it's a 6.5 gen iPod, basically effectively a 7th gen iPod. And this was, I got it as is, sold as broken basically, but it does fully function other than the fact that the click wheel didn't work, and I was able to fix that. And it ended up being the traces on the click wheel were, like, I don't know how, but there's like a hairline fracture along them. So anyway, I just replaced the click wheel and it's as good as new pretty much. But I have noticed in testing the hard drive actually has a couple errors, some reallocations, and that kind of hints that it's. And so I'm just going to reset this and show you guys what exactly the issue I was seeing was. So we're just going to reboot it, send it into diagnostic mode. So to force a reboot, it's always menu and center, and you just press and hold that, and for like 5 or 10 seconds, and it'll reboot. And then you press center rewind to get into this menu. This is the service menu. Now we want to hit menu, and let's see. I think it's an I/O hard drive. Now you can either use the scroll wheel or just click the buttons. Hard drive, and we want to look at the smart data. And there we go. We can see this hard drive, which is the original 120 gig hard drive, has 24 reallocations, no pending, 11 retracts. It's been power on hours just under 300, and start stop 1 2 3 6 5, etc., etc. Basically, the thing that's important to look at is the reallocations or the pending sectors. And 24 is relatively high. This drive does probably still have some life in it, but even when running, like plugged into a computer loading songs on, there were a couple times that it kind of locked up, and I have a feeling it's because, the drive, there's some surface errors basically on the drive, and it's starting to get towards the end of its life. So what I'm going to do is exit out and just reset it. And while that's going, I purchased this, which is an iFlash Solo. Now, the reason why I didn't get the SATA version or the dual or the quad SD is the Solo is the lowest power one, so it'll give us the longest running battery life using the stock battery, of course, without upgrading the battery. So because this is only powering one little tiny SD card, it'll be the most power efficient. So that's why I opted for it. I don't need more than 100, 200 gigabytes of memory anyway. So what we are actually going to do is just put this to sleep and lock the headphone or the hold switch so it won't turn on while we're fiddling. Anyway, this is basically an adapter that iFlash sells that you can put a full-size SD card in and basically convert it to the hard drive interface so that you can run this without any mechanical hard disk. It'll just have an SD card, and battery life will be significantly better than with the hard drive, and of course no moving parts. It'll load much quicker, so it's pretty much all around good. This guy ended up costing about, I think, just over 40 bucks. And there are other versions that take multiple SD cards or use like mSATA or tiny SSD, like computer cards that you could upgrade it with. Those are a little more expensive, but like I said, I actually want to keep battery life on this as long as possible. So what I'm going to do is stick a single SD card in there and just be done with it. Now I have a couple tools here, including a blunt pocket knife that's not sharp at all. We are going to pop this open, and these iPods are notoriously hard to open, and I'm going to try to do this with minimal damage to any of the clips or the shell casing itself. Now, it's pretty much impossible to open this without scuffing. You can see there's a little bit of scuffing on the side here where I started prying the first time around. So it's not ideal, but if you're really worried about aesthetics, once you open it up, you could actually buy replacement. The outer housing, both the front and the back case, can replace it brand new, and it'll look just like it's just from the factory. Anyway, we're going to get in here. And what I like to do is there's one clip on the top, kind of right in the middle there. And it also actually helps to have, let's see, if you have another open one, you can compare it and see exactly where the clips are located. And that's what I did the first time around, so I knew where to pry to minimize risk. Anyway, the one at the top here is a good place to start. So I'm just going to start prying. The easiest way I found is get the top one done and then put something in there like this little metal pry tool just to keep that clip depressed, and then go around from the left hand side, get that done so that the corner's free, then get the bottom, and then you don't have to worry about the right side. You just open it like a book then, pretty much. This is going to take a while. This is going to be very annoying, and I'm sure I'll try to keep the camera on for as much of it as possible, but this is going to be very painful and a very long process. So, start with, let's see. It is kind of hard to get in there when you're first starting. Oops, bubble wrap. And make sure you're very careful not to accidentally slip and cut yourself. But what we're trying to do is open up just a tiny little bit of a gap so we can get our pry tool in. Okay, now I've got a gap in there. I'm going to stick this little spudgery in, and we're going to see it's about correct where the clip is, and you're just going to want to get in there. And then from there, we just want to go around the side and do the same exact thing. Now, it really does help having multiple tools to keep the gap open while you're working. Otherwise, just like that, it'll tend to want to shut back, close, and then it's a matter of fighting with it by that point. Now, what additionally helps is to get to get a flashlight, and then you can kind of see where the metal clips are and if they're engaged or if they're catching. Like for instance, this one has a clip right here. Sorry about that. Camera's not focusing. Has a clip right here. So just want to keep that in mind. You can just kind of peer inside, see if that's roughly where you are. And then you can use a pocket knife to spread it open and just work your way. There we go. So I just got both the top one out, and I've gotten a good deal of this side off. It just kind of popped open. Now, keep in mind, this is the second time I opened this, and the first time after I was done, I pressed the clips in just slightly to make them a bit easier the next time for me to open it. So this is a lot easier the second time, I will say. But definitely a good sign. Now we just want to work our way around. Now I got this one done. So now we have almost one whole side. Now I want to very carefully get on the bottom here. I just undid that one. One more to go. Okay. And you don't want to pop this open all the way because there are ribbons in between. You don't want to rip any of them. So there is the battery ribbon. So you want to kind of get a hold, get something just to pull up the clip just enough for you to pull out the battery. So now it's not live anymore, so I'm not as worried. There's nothing to short. We have our hard drive, which there's a little ribbon. You want to be really careful. I would advise not even taking the ribbon off the motherboard, but taking it off from the hard drive, because you need to reuse this ribbon anyway. So just get your fingernails. There's a little clip. Just be very gentle, and you can just pull that right out. It was a little bit more stuck in there the first time, but like I said, once you open this once, it gets a lot easier to do everything. This is the original hard disk. It's a 1.8 inch, 120 gigabyte. This guy is not doing so hot anyway, so we're just going to set that aside. And we have the adapter itself. So the way that this adapter has to go in is kind of face down, or face up, I guess you could say, if you're looking at the iPod, the same orientation that I am. So it just goes in just like this, and it clears as a bit of metal there. So you can actually quite easily get get that ribbon started. Make sure it goes in there straight though. And you only want to see a little bit of the gold of the contacts, and you can just lock it down, and that's good to go. Now they do give you a bit of foam you can put on here just to make sure that it doesn't rattle when you close the back. If you are going to do an extended battery mod, if you have a thicker back shell, now is the time to do that. But as for me, what I'm going to do is find where I put my micro SD card that I'm going to insert into this. And we're going to insert this, put the battery back in, and reformat it in iTunes before we close and lock all the tabs, because we don't want to have to keep opening and closing this again. So let me find that micro SD card. Okay, so I found the SD card. For now, I'm going to stick 128 gig. Now, there is a thing to note. While you can stick pretty much any size card that you want in here, while you can stick as big of a card as you want in here, like a 1 terabyte or whatever, so there's actually a chart on iFlash's website, and they have, for instance, I think 5th gen can accept pretty much any capacity, but it has like a 30 to 40,000 song limit depending on the ID3 tag length. The 6th gen is actually limited to 128 gigs, and I believe the reason why is if you stick a bigger card in there, the stock iPod operating system will actually tend to lock up and crash. So they actually recommend, if you want to have above like 256 gigs or above on a 6th gen iPod, you need to install Rockbox. And I believe 7th gen is good for pretty much any size hard drive. But yeah, once again, you're limited in terms of the number of songs you can put. You can put a 1 terabyte, SSD in any iPod, and it'll more or less work, but you won't be able to necessarily fill the hard drive with music, or there might be some issues with the operating system. Anyway, I have my card here. I have it in a full-size adapter, and looks like that was already pre-locked. That's interesting. So yeah, we're just going to insert that there. And that's actually another purpose of this foam. I don't know if there's actually a right placement. I never actually looked up the instructions officially how to do this, but I put it on my other iPod. I put it like right above here so that the card can't slide down if I accidentally drop the iPod or something like that. But yeah, I don't think it's really that crucial or critical where exactly it goes. But for now, I'm going to leave the foam out. And we're just going to reattach the battery so I can plug this into iTunes and restore it. Okay. So just to give it a quick test, unlock, turn it on. I haven't closed it fully. Yeah, and that's good. you want to use iTunes to restore. If you see a red circle and an X that fills the screen and it says something to the effect of there's a hardware issue, that means that you didn't properly insert the ribbon for the adapter, or there's a problem with your adapter. Maybe it's damaged. So you want to see this restore with iTunes icon with the dock connector. And this means it's ready to actually update the software on the SD card. So we're going to take this over to my computer and restore using iTunes. Okay, sorry about the handheld nature of this, but anyway, I have it plugged in. iPod is connecting into disk mode, and it does give you an error about formatting. You can ignore that. iTunes, however, has detected an iPod in recovery mode, so we're going to hit OK, and we're going to actually do a restore. Now, I've already downloaded the newest version of the iPod operating system, so I don't have to do that. If you don't have, if this is your first time restoring that iPod, it's going to connect to the Apple servers, the internet, and it'll auto download by itself. But that'll take 5 or 10 minutes, whatever your internet connection is. Anyway, I already have it downloaded, so just let's burn it. And it's just going to go through and it's going to tick the status bar up, and I'll get back to you guys once it's completed. Shouldn't take that long. It's already almost a quarter done. Okay, just completed, and iPod's rebooting, and it says your iPod has been restored to factory settings. Please leave it connected, and it'll reinitialize. And we have a progress bar on the iPod itself, and it just finished, so it should be getting ready to boot for the first time on this card. And there we go. So it's connected, and it should actually show up within, there we go, it's actually reading now. It should show up within the iTunes interface in a second or so. And there we go, welcome to your new iPod. Though it's not really new. So we're just gonna hit continue, and I guess get started. And there we go. You can see it, for some reason, named me not the right thing. 06. There we go. SJM4306's iPod. You can see it's just under 128 gigabytes. Obviously, the operating system formatting takes up some of that memory, but it's basically 128 gig. But like I said, you could actually stick a larger card in there. Nothing's stopping you from doing that, depending on what model generation iPod you have. Anyway, we're good to go. I have pretty much nothing on here. So I'm just going to go through and then I'm going to add all my music.